Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have two articles for you in this episode, and both the URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. The first one here is off of studyfinds.org. There we go. Researchers say fake news did not alter election results. It's out of Stanford, California. It says, as social media sites like Facebook and Snapchat move to eliminate fake news reports from their sites, researchers from Stanford and New York universities say Americans can be sure of one thing: the phenomenon did not affect the results of the presidential election. The new study released last month investigates the influence that fake news may have had on President Trump's victory. NYU economics professor Hunt Alcott and Stanford economics professor Matthew Jensgau led the research. The pair ran a series of tests to determine which fake news articles were circulated and how much of it was circulated, and the amount of voters that believed these stories to be true. Once they gathered an assortment of fake news stories, Jensgau and Alcott used fact-checking resources in order to verify that these stories were fake. They then conducted a post-election survey that consisted of 1,200 voters. Participants were asked what their primary or most important source of 2016 election news was. Next, they were presented with a list of true and false news stories and asked two questions concerning each individual story. The first was whether or not the participant remembered seeing the story. The second question asked whether or not they believed the story. Although the fake news stories in Trump's favor were shared more than 30 million, were shared more times, 30 million, compared to 8 million for Hillary Clinton. The authors of the report had determined that these stories still did not reach enough voters nationwide to change the election results. The average American saw and remembered 0.92 pro-Trump fake news stories and 0.23 pro-Clinton fake news stories, with just over half of those who recalled seeing fake news stories believing them, the authors wrote. But for fake news to have changed the outcome of the election, a single fake article would need to have had the same persuasive effect as 36 television campaign ads. The observers' work also revealed that a majority of voters were capable of accurately deciding whether or not a news story was true. They concluded that a significant number of American voters casted their final decision based on false information. In summary, our data suggests that social media were not the most important source of election news, and even the most widely circulated fake news stories were seen by only a small fraction of Americans, the study concludes. And the next article is off of Patriotic Viral News, and it says, CNN reporter says governments pay them to produce fake news stories. Have you ever heard the term barely scratch the surface? Former CNN reporter Amber Lyon blows the lid off the network, exposes that governments around the world pay CNN to write fake news stories. Amber is a three-time Emmy Award-winning journalist who has reported on news from across the world. When CNN refused to air a segment she wrote and produced on the Arab Spring in Bahrain, a violent uprising against an oppressive government with the Middle Eastern nation, Amber was surprised. When she started to dig into the reason behind why CNN would not air the news story, she uncovered shocking facts about the network and the Obama administration. Amber found that CNN is routinely paid by the U.S. government and other foreign governments to selectively report and air news stories on events from around the world. In the video clip below, Amber explains that she found out Bahrain's government paid CNN not to report on the violent incident. The country did not want it getting out that peaceful demonstrators were shot en masse and that citizens reported they were brutally tortured by the regime and family members were abducted or disappeared. CNN tried to keep Amber quiet. but she felt a moral obligation to the American people to expose the network and the Obama administration for their role. Amber is now trying to get the real story out on what's going on in the liberal media. Corruption in the liberal media is never surprising, but it should always be acknowledged and remembered. And the video is in this URL if you want to pull it up to see that for yourself. So that's all I had for you in this episode, but I've got a couple more to follow. If you like what I'm doing, give it a thumbs up and share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Be sure and subscribe. That way you stay informed.